Senior writer Kelsey Bolar and progressive commentator Rashad Richey on what could be driving this. Rashad, what do you think?
Well, I think Texans are smart. Please keep in mind, Neil, that according to projections, 117,000 Texans will actually lose jobs in the short-term projection of these potential tariffs. 400,000 will lose jobs over the long term. And remember, in a matchup head-to-head, Texas is a big deal for Democrats. You can literally lose Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania as a Democrat. But if you win Texas, you become president of the United States. To me, the electoral matchup here is more damaging to the president than the numerical popular vote ratio.
All right. I tend, like you, to be a little suspicious of polls this early, or certainly polls that are so out of whack with what would seem to be the case. But having said that, what do you think, Kelsey?
I think it is premature to draw any dramatic conclusions from these polls. And look, Joe Biden is running on his name ID right now. We're only just learning about his policy positions. Just this week, he released a $1.7 trillion climate deal that basically is an endorsement of the framework of the Green New Deal. So he is more popular right now because he is running on the return to normalcy platform. He's claiming to be a moderate, but the more and more Americans come to learn about the actual far left policy positions that he is taking, I think the more of them will grow concerned, because our economy, despite the fears of the tariffs moving forward on Monday, despite that, the economy is still doing well. And much in part of that is thanks to the Trump tax cuts, which Biden and all the other candidates have said they would get rid of.
Well, Rashad, the one thing I look at is I know, you weren't a fan of the tax cuts, are not. A lot of Democrats rip them apart and all that. But I think that when you get into closer to the general election, you start debating that. And then the president might just say, all right, so if it's you, Joe Biden, are you for raising taxes? If you want to reverse them, he's already called for getting rid of the tax cuts to pay for his climate change plan. I'm beginning to wonder whether that will sink in and people will say, I don't know.
Well, tariffs are taxes too, Neil. Just a fancy word for them.
By the way, you really think that's what's going on in this Texas poll? Because that hasn't come to fruition yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think Texans are looking at this as a cause and effect dynamic, because if you look at recent polling data, Biden was nowhere near the numbers he's at now. He's double digits ahead of the president. That is a direct correlation to the new potential tariff that will be implemented in the next few days. And I think it's problematic for the president. And also,
well, by the way, conversely, then, if he gets a victory against the Chinese and/or Mexicans and secures trade deals that are to his liking, well, bets are off, right?
That is a huge if, Neil. Now, look at his numbers. So President Trump is at 60% positive on how he handles the economy. That's according to multiple surveys of Americans throughout the course of the last 6 months. But his approval rating as president is at 41%. Why? Because of moves like this. He gets in the way of his own message. The economy message should be the landing message.
Well, he's about where Barack Obama, he's about at the approval numbers Barack Obama was at this stage. So you're right, things could change. But Kelsey, I do wonder, given what to me at least is arguably a very strong economy, might not be exactly to Rashad's liking, but it is strong. Markets, minus the volatility, they're strong. The record low unemployment rates for every key demographic, including a lot of key Democratic Party demographics, are all in the president's favor. And yet he's having the battle of his life. What is that? Why is that?
Well, I think Democrats are getting a lot of attention right now. But again, Americans don't fully know where they stand on a lot of policy positions. And the more we come to learn what those are, the more far left they are. And we have to also have a conversation about the reason why we're even talking about tariffs. That is because Democrats refuse to do anything to solve the border crisis. We just found out in May, 144,000 people, many of them families and children, cross the border again at record numbers. To put that in perspective, the average town in America is only 20,000 people. And so when we have this crisis happening at the border and we have the Democrats who are refusing to talk about it, that's of course going to become problematic as soon as they are finally pressed on that issue from the media, which unfortunately is failing in doing its job on that front thus far.
Well, the president doesn't help, right, with the crazy tweets and all that, right?
He's got to do something, and
Okay.
he's doing everything in his power and some would argue too much. I'm not in favor of tariffs because, yes, they are taxes
Right.
on the American people.
We'll watch closely. Guys, I want to thank you very, very much. Fair and Balanced View.
Thank you.